start, when something's new, I give it great deference, and I want to read some things. I normally don't do it, but we'll be reading some of the things I came up with. But to really appreciate repairs versus capitalization, the classes I've taught now for 16 years on this book, you really got to get a flavor for what is a repair. Some of my classes, accountants tend to be conservative people. And I said, it's kind of aggressive, I don't know. But after I read like the 22nd case, and the courts are saying the same thing, and even the regs, the older regs for the IRS, also said that certain things were repair, then they start changing their minds. So on page 1-15, maintenance versus repair, even the IRS recognizes the impact of the cases below, and they've tried to issue regs in 2006, 2008. They've had proposed regs. I mean, this isn't the first stab that they tried to take repairs and capitalization. And the whole thing, the whole genesis is real estate going to 27.5 and 39. If real estate was 15, I don't think you would nearly see the attention being paid to try and take something as a repair. Well, two things. One, cost seg to get things out of 39, 27 into 5 or 7, and then even more so, when you can't get a cost seg into 5 or 7 or 15-year land improvements, then you really have the two extremes, right? The pendulum is what? Repair current expense, 39-year straight line depreciation. That's a pretty large gap, isn't it? And therein lies the struggle. And the IRS is trying to resolve some of the controversy by coming out with various sets of regs. And you read the history of some of the regs as we go through this, okay? So, you know, are we capitalizing items that could be written off as repairs? And we'll look at the cases. But let me just pick and choose. I would say some key points here, okay? The comment down here, if you see there is a general plan of renovation, okay? I'll give you an example. I never owned a house in my life, okay? Got out of my postdoctorate. I came up to University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. East side of Milwaukee is a nice place to live. I buy a duplex. Second day in town. I was going to rent for a year or something. So I not only buy a house, I buy a duplex. And Mrs. Schultz hasn't fixed this sucker up. She's 87. She's going into a nursing home. So I buy from Mrs. Schultz. The breakers, and they had the old screw and fuses and everything. So long story short, I had a general plan of renovation. I put $87,000 in this rental property over a 5-year period. And I'd like to make some distinctions here. I don't know why I did initially. I don't even know what the 100 amp services cost, but I couldn't even rent it out or make it available for rent until I got a certificate of occupancy, and I had to get the electrical up to that standard, 2 100 amp services, 100 per unit, okay? After I did that, those would definitely be what? Capitalizable costs. I will never debate that. That was a general plan of renovation. I had 87 storm windows, and I had to caulk it, I had to paint them, I had to fix up the first floor unit, I had to get the electrical service. I have no problem. I had to capitalize that. But back in '84, 18 years was not a bad write-off, you know, for real estate. And you could even take 175 dB. For residential, you would see some accelerated depreciation with residential. You never see it on commercial if you knew what you were doing. Why? Because it's 1250 recapture. But if it's residential, do you guys remember recapture, the excess of accelerated over straight line for residential? Well, the last year of accelerate was 86, and it was 15, 18, 19. Add 19 to 86, that's 2005. There is no 1250 recapture on residential. I don't care. Anytime you'll have recapture on 1250 is commercial property accelerated, and that had to be placed in service before 81. General rule. So general plan renovation, you have to capitalize. Now I spent $87,000. Once I had the place rented, I worked on my half as well as the rental half. And a lot of that was just maintenance and repairs, bringing it back to ordinary operating condition. But it's a subjective thing. When did the general plan of renovation stop? I would argue when I had a certificate of occupancy that's available for rent. But from that point forward, where I had a renter, I actually had a renter, then I started taking repair costs. But at least it was available for rent at that point in time. But when a client describes shutting down a hotel, I'm at the Holiday Inn Matteson, Illinois, which is on 57 and just south of I-80. There's cracks in the ceiling and the ballroom flaking wallpaper. I talked to him, I said, you renovated all the rooms in the lobby and the restaurant. When are you going to do the meeting rooms? And he said, we just got an estimate, and it's going to shut down meeting rooms for 6 weeks. And weddings are a big deal on weekends, and that revenue, we hate to lose it. But there's no question, that's a general plan of renovation. I mean, they're in such poor shape that they have to take them out of service and 6 weeks to renovate and put them back. I think that's an example where you might have to capitalize.